under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may look forward and think we don't have a quorum, but we do. Good to see you, Eric.
And Edie's planning.
Hello, all.
Good to see you. Any additions, deletions, amendments to the agenda, Kurt?
So the local service plan, just so we know, is an action item, so when they present, it'll be the request of the board to approve the local service plan from the ESD. So that would be a change.
Okay,
And then also, I think under board business, although I'm gonna talk about it, it could also be district office. Building update or district office discussion. So, had our work session around it, had other conversation, so looking for some direction from the board on next steps.
okay.
Okay.
Have a motion to approve the budget.
Yeah.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye, 3 ayes. Opportunity for community comments. Anybody signed up?
Oh, Edie got.
Marla,
Yeah.
how are you? Welcome.
Alright, I sit here.
Yeah.
Okay. Haven't done this.
We need to know your name and I have your address right here, so I think we're good. Marla,
Yes,
thank you.
so I'm here as I am the president and producing artistic director of Silent Echo Theater Company,
Okay,
which is based here. It's a 501(c)(3) based here in Sisters. And we actually were founded in 2016. And we've been looking for an opportunity to potentially have a building here in Sisters for several different reasons. But I know that you were in the process of either leasing or selling this building. So I wanted to talk to you. I know that you guys spoke to the Sisters Historical Society last month.
we have,
And I had a conversation with them about potential collaboration
okay,
to be here in Sisters. Because it would work, we would be kind of a partnership. But I've also talked to other groups here in Sisters. I've talked to the Sisters Arts Association, potentially the Folk Festival, Quilt Show. There would be things like pop-ups, but the building could be potentially used by various groups. Which with the idea that I know that one group needs to be the lead. I did learn that from talking to Amy. The other reason we wanted to talk to you was because we have Silent Echo Kids program, which I think it's about 15 years ago that there was no longer a theater department in Sisters schools. And we have been talking to Stephen Livingston, who is the choir director at the middle school and the high school, and who does the musical every other year, and actually I've helped with that, about us bringing Sisters Kids, Sisters Silent Echo Kids back. We did it in 2019, right before COVID shut us down. But the possibility of doing something here that could both complement the Americana program and supplement the theater show that they have every other year. And also helping seniors as well. We have a lot of seniors here in the community, so it could be a meeting place. So the use of the building, I know you have all the classrooms, and you also potentially have several bigger spaces that could potentially be used for a number of different reasons, including live theater, which is what we present. We've literally in Sisters in the last 10 years, we have done theater at the middle school. We've also done it at the Belfry. We've done cabaret, comedy, improv, kids improv. So it's an opportunity for the live arts here in Sisters. There is no permanent venue.
okay,
So I
Okay.
wanted to share with you that as a possibility of maybe you considering, and if potentially we were able to get the lease, we already have educational programs, as does the Historical Society. So it would continue having your zoning here, as an educational venue.
okay. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We have a couple of ladies from the ESD talk to us about the local service plan. So step forward and bring a chair and we're good.
Good evening. I'm thrilled to be in Sisters this evening. And I have one of my board members with me, Emily Stuckel, who represents Sisters. So thank you for welcoming us. And I have the 25-26 LSP to present to you. And I know that you are an experienced board. So I don't want to go too deep that it's boring to you, but I give you enough information about our development of it this year.
Okay.
I brought hard copies, but it looks like you already have copies, so you all know.
Amy hasn't brought a well of a sheet.
I can see that, yes. So the purpose of the LSP is to provide the guidelines that the ESD has in the services that we will be able to offer to our districts this year, actually. And you have to remember that the LSP is developed collaboratively with the superintendents of the region. They decide what services we need, and then that's what the ESD puts together each year. There's not a lot of changes necessarily in the LSP each year because the districts have developed those programs and agreed upon those programs. Sometimes we'll take something out, or sometimes we'll put something in based on what districts want, but you're gonna see an LSP that's very similar to the LSP last year. The law requires that we provide services in 4 categories: administrative support services, children with special needs, school improvement services, and technology services. And of those, Sisters is a high user, I will say, because of the size. It creates an efficiency and an economical benefit for Sisters to be a part of a collaborative service model. So Sisters uses a lot that you'll find in the LSP. And what the LSP does is it balances the services that a small district can get with a big district. And it looks at students across the region as everybody's students. And so you may benefit from some of the services that Bend is purchasing. And then, of course, there's also a benefit of the collaborative model where you can work together on state initiatives and state requirements. The board's role is to the ESD board, as after this is all put together by the region, the ESD board approves it, and then I take it out to each one of the regions, and the boards in the region get to see what's in it, and they get to either vote yes on it, or they can vote no on it. The law requires that 60% of the vote, requires 60% of the vote to pass, but the vote is based on ADMW. So Bend is a very big player in the LSP, but I will say that Sisters is a high user, so it is a good collaborative relationship. The process is that the superintendents work on it basically from July until November, and then I finalize it and take it to our board in December. And then I go out during January and February to the regional boards, and they get a chance to give their input on it and pass it, hopefully. And then we begin to sit at the table with the regional superintendents and their teams to decide what each district wants to buy off of the menu. No district buys everything. Bend buys the least amount because they can do a lot internally, but Sisters buys is one of our high users because it's a small district and benefits from purchasing in a collaborative model. I think the important thing to say is that we value your input all through the year, and it's a model that is a great spiral that begins in July and then goes all the way through a building process and approval process. And then we start again the next July and we see what districts need, what superintendents are asking for, and then we build that LSP each year. I will show you, just because you have one in front of you, kind of how this is set up. And I think it's almost a strategic plan. The beginning of it really talks about the core and heart of the ESD and why we do what we do and kind of those dedications. And then as you get onto page 6, you'll see it begins to break out the services into the 4 categories. And the way that this is set up is the services that flow through the LSP are the ones that are in white. And then if they are a contract or an entrepreneurial service, they're listed in blue. And so the ones that truly that you're approving are the ones that are in white. The ones that are in blue are ones that we're providing with a state contract, or it's something the districts have said they would like to purchase with their LSP dollars. And they can select off of that menu. So the first section reflects the administrative services. And then over on page 8, you'll see that it reflects the children's with special needs services. And then it goes on through where page 10 is the school improvement services. And then the last category on page 12 is the technology service. The difference between last year's LSP and this year's LSP are very minimal. And one of them is a celebration and one of them is a reduction. Celebration is that Children's Forest, also known as, I can't remember, because it used to be Children's Forest. Nature Connects. Nature Connects. They have been a 501c3 that sat within the ESD, but they have grown so robust that now they can stand without the ESD. So the services from Nature Connects are still available to the districts. It's just that now the Nature Connects will negotiate independently with districts if students, if schools and teachers and students are going to access the Nature Connects. And then the other is that under the, oh gosh, I think that used to be under school improvement services. We used to offer something called I for Ed Innovation. And it was a place where people could take ideas and scale them up and generate some kind of an innovation. It's never had any, there's never been a school board that or district that has paid into it. And therefore it had a very low return on investment. So because now with the budgets like they are, we do not have the capacity to transfer monies out of general fund into an initiative that the districts aren't using or aren't asking for and helping pay into. There's just not that kind of money in the system right now. So that is not listed in the entrepreneurial this year. And so you won't be able to, that isn't something that, it's not like you bought it before and now you, no district had ever paid into it. So I think that, I think there's still an aim to do innovation within the ESD. It's just, there's not a separate department with an administrator and a staff. So now innovation will be integrated into every single category. And also if districts want to do something innovative, we can work together as a team to develop it. And it will still allow innovation, but won't create overhead and a drain off of the general fund. So tonight, what we're asking of your board is an approval of the LSP for 25-26. And I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any input that Sisters Board has, or of course Kurt's already had input all along.
I think for a small district like us, the kinds of services that the ESC provides are pretty extraordinary.
Thank
My
you.
experience with the ESC goes back
Mhm.
60 years. My dad was a business manager in Roseburg. And the ESD provided films and projectors and equalizations. And that
Yes.
was pretty much it. And now we get this whole array of services that you can provide for us that are just pretty extraordinary.
And that is done through the collaboration of the people who care about all the children in the
Yeah.
region. So it's a beautiful model.
It's a good thing, but you've grown a lot.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Dr. Johnson, do other states have ESDs?
There are, I think it's 43 that have some structure of an ESD. They're called different things in different states. And they're done differently in different states. For example, in Washington, they are called ESDs, but there's no state school fund. They're 100% entrepreneurial. So they have to figure out what districts are buying and they have to create that and sell it.
And
In-
then sell that to the districts, and so
Yes.
the districts pay into it.
In Oregon, we get a very small percentage of the state school fund, and we are required to pass on 90% of what we take in from the state school fund to our component districts. So we only keep 10% to run operations, buildings, and our staffing, because we have some grants too, or super fun.
Can you please clarify what it is that we're voting on? Would we say
So-
that again?
This menu itself, that is what you're voting on. You are saying Sisters
Approved, so-
Board approves this menu that the superintendent's collaboratively developed. And then it's
But then
part
we
of the
choose
law
from
that
later, so this is.
Yes.
We do that, so Sherry and I go through pretty
Right.
much, we look at what we've used in the past, how much we've used it, whether we've used it, some things we bought into because we thought we would use them and then we didn't. And so we reevaluate each year the services, but there's some that are like Sarah explained, where we couldn't do on our own, but because the ESD hires someone to serve multiple districts, we have a full-time person at the ESD that provides those services for our kids.
But that's a separate discussion and a separate
that's
Yeah.
true.
thing.
Yeah,
So
you're
this
just
is
approving the plan.
approving the plan.
I do want to
Okay,
make clear that in the LSP, you only pay for what you use.
Yeah.
So if you're not using it, you don't pay for it. And
Yeah.
that is that way with every component district.
It's just a strange exercise to approve a plan from which to choose.
It
Okay,
is,
like, I just want to make sure I understand.
it is a,
Okay, understood what's happening.
like Jeff said, it's been around for a long time. And it started, I think, back in the early 1900s, and it has evolved, and the legislative body, they are the ones who set up this process, so. If we
It's,
were to change it, it would have to be changed through legislation.
and it's a little like what's gonna happen with our SIA budget, where at some point Joe will come and present that, but it's also gonna be in our budget. The SIA will be spelled out. I mean, so we're in a mode of double approving, a lot of things.
It
So-
might be a check and balance system now that I think of it, because I think that, people could do things that weren't transparent to a board unless it's built into this transparency process where I have to bring it and show. Maybe
Right.
that's why they did it the way they did.
Because if we
That's-
don't like the list of options, then this is our option.
To
This is
say,
our
we don't
chance to
like
say we don't
this.
like the
Yeah.
option.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think that's probably where
and the vote just puts it on record,
that's good, yes.
right? So.
And
okay.
we have to report then.
Yeah.
That we took it to you and gave you a chance to see it and approve it or give input or reject it.
Okay.
Well.
Quick question for Kurt.
Yeah,
Sorry, I had to be remote. What percentage of these services has Sisters made use of in the past?
oh, I don't know a complete percentage. We spend almost our entire allotment in the budget. We'll leave some wiggle room for a service that might come up that we might need that we didn't foresee. But typically we budget for about 90% of what we're allotted in our local service plan with services. you know, special ed is a big one, financial services is a big one. Technology is a big one, legal services is a big one. So those are some of the bigger buckets that we buy into for services. But like I said, each year, one year they hired wasn't a speech therapist or was someone that we hired through them because we didn't have the money in our budget to hire them, so we were able to use the money and have the ESD hire them, but only to serve sisters. So it looks a little different each year depending on our need.
I think one year you bought a school psychologist.
Yeah.
That no one else had access to. It was a sister's service.
Yeah.
But
Thank
I
you.
think your question, like, I think based on your question, I'd say. By my limited understanding, maybe 25 or 30% of the options.
Yeah, we don't opt into all, but it's probably more than that. It's probably half to 60% that we get some kind of connect.
60% of the options?
Yeah, we use a lot of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have.
like I said, I don't know what I'm talking about, so.
Yeah,
I have in front of me just at a glance that tells what you accessed in 24-25, and I could leave that with Amy if that's something you'd like to look over, or I can go over it if you want to take the time.
and it's some of our small percentages, like if we send one kid to get me tested for vision, I mean, that's
Yeah.
a service that we get charged for. So it just depends, but we actually do tap into quite a few of the services just because of our size.
Well, I'd like to move that we approve the 25-26 LSP.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Pass 4-0. Thank you so much. I
Thank you. It's a-
appreciate the good work you both do and okay.
Well, thank you.
As long as you don't steal him.
I promise.
Okay. Move on to business and finance.
I just wanted to clarify something in case it wasn't clear. It was probably, but. Dr. Johnson mentioned that the ESDs have to pass 90% of their state school fund income onto the school districts. And that becomes our budget for our LSP through the ESD that currently goes through and approves.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I was sharing the Parks Board across the street and it ran late, so it was my fault. But I'm here.
Got here just in time for the good stuff. No good stuff. I'm not gonna say there's nothing to report. In late February, we got a new estimate from ODE for our state school fund. And found that our enrollment, our ABMW had dropped considerably based on the second period reporting. So our state school fund allotment also dropped, and you'll see that in the remaining months on the directional report. We're pretty confident it's gonna go back up when we get towards the end of the school year. Our enrollment is up a bit. Hopefully those numbers will go up some, but that is why they're lower for the remaining months.
But it is a concern. I think last year we were consistently above our projection. This year we've been consistently below, which is gonna. The way they're doing it now is they're quarterly adjusting. They're not waiting until all year and then adjusting your May message the next year and making it such a big wave impact. So they've been adjusting it slightly. That's to say it will adjust the revenue this year, which could impact a tight budget season next year because we're not going to have as much cash carry forward to move into that budget season. So there's some challenges that it creates, you know, and a bit of it is, you know, I think every year, looking at, we had some Heart of Oregon kids move through, and so it just is where we are at this point, and the cost of housing and what the developments that are online right now. you know, I think we'll continue to right some of the growth as we continue down those paths. We're just in a little bit of a stall right now in our enrollment. Not a panic, but it doesn't help in a tight budget cycle. So, we'll be, should be a fun spring. I say with great sarcasm.
Anyway, that's really the only significant thing that much to report on the report, unless anybody has any questions.
You're in charge.
Okay, I'm in charge. I don't have any questions. Eric, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Danica, you good?
Happy spring. Don't forget to set your clocks next Saturday night.
Oh, good times. Okay. Moving on to administrative reports. Joan, do you want to start?
Oh, I'm
Or you can start?
It's a celebration.
Oh, yeah.
Last time I checked in with you all. We had received a ramp award for our district middle school. And we got word last week that we also received it for the elementary building. So we now have 2 schools that are awarded the ramp award. So it's pretty exciting. So out of the 8 that I presented, the 8 in the entire state of Oregon, for the next projection, there will be 2 sister schools included in that. So that's
Wow.
a really big accomplishment. Yeah, so our counseling programs are nationally recognized as being superior, data-driven in all aspects as far as social emotional learning, career and college ready, and then also the academics.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah, it's a really big
outstanding.
accomplishment for especially for a small school district in Central Oregon. So that's all I'm celebrating.
Congratulations. Thank you for making it happen.
Well, then just also celebrating Kate, our school counselor, for the hard work that she's done the last week. She's got a reality. I'm here as Title III ELD English learners to just present to you. Next month, Melissa Smith will join me. She's our ELD teacher in the district. And we will be presenting to you a curriculum for the K-3 ELD adoption. And if you remember last year, we came to you and we had gone through a process and we had a potential K-3 but that we would consider, but there was also one that was being developed that we wanted to wait, that would have aligned K-12 with the same program. So that K-3 program came out and it wasn't what we had hoped it would be. So we have the other program that we had selected as our first choice. And that is Engaged Connected with Science and National Geographic. And we have it here in the boardroom or in the district office for the next month for the public to preview. And so that's basically what I'm here to just share, is that it's here to be previewed. And then next month we'll come and give you the specifics as to the why that we would like to adopt it. And then we would ask next month that you would approve the adoption for that K-3 ELD program. So, yeah. Any questions on that?
No, I think, and I would just acknowledge as we enter into budget season that, so we were invited into a small cohort. Did I say this last meeting? We were invited into a cohort in the state 14 school districts where we're some school districts had a trajectory of non-performance of growth with their ELL students. We're not in that group. We had a slight dip on 2 metrics, attendance and behavior. I think we suspended 2 kids in the middle school, and we have attendance issues with our Latino kids a little more than some, well, not more, I'd say, but average. But so those 2 factors dipped us into the part of this equation that has 6 points and broken down percentages of how it calibrates into a not jail, but probationary status. So now we were invited in with this group of 14 schools. The amount of paperwork is
A lot.
yeah, very impressive. And we are gonna get a little support, so that'll be something that'll help in the process. I mean, looking at our data has been helpful. We've grown since we hired Melissa, and I think we're at 40 students, and now we're about 80.
When you count the evers and.
Yeah.
the non-terms
Yeah,
and all of
so,
that.
so, you know, I'm trying to have a really good positive attitude. It's a great opportunity for us to review all that data and look at a plan to support. There are 3 people from the department head overseeing the 14 school districts, so, I mean, there's considerable oversight. So that'll be fun. They, have also offered to hire, what's the group called? The kitchen
Kitchen table.
to come into our community, do feedback. Anybody paying attention to stuff? People coming into your community to do feedback with our migrant population isn't necessarily popular and well received, so we're having discussions about whether they're actually gonna get people turning out for that. And whether it'd be better just to have Jacqueline and Joan be involved in getting that feedback. If they want to give us the model that the questions that they want us to ask, that's great, but I'm not sure we're gonna get the results. And it's interesting that they've also hired an outside agency to come into communities, which is a whole nother discussion about the resources they're putting at it when they could have just given them to us. So anyway, so that's just to make you aware, as we budget, you will see, again, one of the requirements is a specific budget to support that. And that'll be coming our way as we get into the budget process, so. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. All right.
I think we're
Yep,
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah,
so, Sherry kind of hit on the enrollment a little bit, so we had an adjustment with some of our Heart of Oregon kids and where we were, so we, especially at the high school, took a little bit of a dip. You know, we've been, you know, a little under the whole year minus the very start, so, not surprising, a little surprising, and every year this time we tended to have added 10 to 20 kids after the break, and we haven't seen that trend this year, so that's interesting. I was in a meeting the other day, and you know, BaseX, which is a really Basics, which is a good company coming to town, bringing another 20 jobs, but they could grow even more than that, and I think they employ, I want to say might be up to 1,100 in Redmond right now, so it's a really large company that's looking for more space, clean space to do some of the work they're doing, so we're hopeful that as some of the industrial park continues to build out, that we'll see more growth. You know, at the UGB meeting, you know, they're getting close to picking that 250 acres of expansion for the UGB and what that looks like, and once that comes online, and there's a couple of other developments that haven't broke ground that I think will, specifically the Northwest Housing Alternatives development, which is 44 units, that'll help. So, you know, I'm concerned as it might impact us a bit as we look at the budget season, but not concerned overall in our trajectory, long term, so, we'll continue to monitor that, but, that's the update with our enrollment.
Kurt? just
Yes.
A question, in the past, we have gotten, especially in the high school age, I think some kids from other districts that have come to be a part of are we still getting them, or is not as strong as it was?
No, we still get them, and we're still a net positive, because we have folks that choose other districts because maybe their parent works right next to a Bend school, and so they choose to take them there because of the balance with their work and where they are. So we're still a net positive for kids coming to the district from other places. Positive more on the lines of about 25. The one that's harder to track right now is our homeschool numbers, just getting some dialogue with the ESD. As you noticed, it was one of their separate boxes. It wasn't, and really tracking that and keeping track of, if you remember in COVID, our homeschool numbers doubled and went up to like 130 from a typical 65. I think we're back more in that 65 area. So that isn't really it. Part of it is just if, you know, I look at the Woodlands, which has been the bigger development here. I don't know that those 3-bedroom places with no real space are really kid family friendly places. I know some are living there, but I'm just not sure what we've had available are really family friendly homes to purchase. So, I think once we get into this UGB movement will continue, and we're gonna continue to draw some kids from other places like we always have.
We have about 80 kids coming in.
Yeah.
The other districts, which is.
So. Amy's done a good job of trying to track, but also some extreme frustration in trying to get real numbers because. They may go there, but then it bounced to a different place or maybe even moved out of the state and we don't know because once they leave us, we don't really get that information. So, yeah. Good question. Any others before I go? Bond work, we did a walkthrough this morning with some things that, you know, we've got. A few issues here and there that we're working with SunWest. One is gonna be the outside field space. Conversation with them today about now that the snow is melted and we can see what we're dealing with underneath the snow. Looking at, you know, a potential light drag, even with the stuff to trying to pick up. There's some rocks that have through the winter come up with the weather, the watering, the frost heaving, so. Like to clean up the field a little bit and then look at an overseed top dressing process. And I believe it doesn't make sense to do that until the kids are out of school, right? We want our kids to be able, they've been out running on the field. Huge relief for them to be able to use that space and they were able to get out when the snow was on it, but the fall having that space shut off and not letting them run. So we're gonna try to push that off until when school's out, which would give us better results if we planted in May. But I think waiting till June is the best thing. I should say better, if we were to quarantine off the field again, but that doesn't make any sense in that time of year. When the weather starts getting nice, the kids really want to get out and
Yeah.
run, so.
They should.
So we're gonna push off the work till kids are gone, and then we'll jump on it. Might be some, you know, work to do with Little League who wants to use that field with some summer stuff, but that'll be low impact. So we're looking at that. There's a few other things that have popped up in the building as we've lived in it for a year that we're working with SunWest on. So that continues. The projects that are left kind of out of what I would say are either bond or deferred maintenance that we're doing. We're still moving the portables out of usable portables that we're moving to behind the high school. That will still happen. We're load testing the electrical box right now to make sure by adding those two that we don't need to put in a new breaker, a new box, something at the high school to support those. So we're load testing that currently, and then we'll get those moved. We have a redundant flood pump coming in for our irrigation because we added acreage of irrigation to that end and really was was gonna be too much of a burden on the old system, so now we have a redundant system that will be able to have a little more efficiency. We should be able to add zones to a watering time zone, because last spring we were watering 24/7 because that's how many zones we needed to get the proper watering. So with a little more volume through the heads with a better system and the addition, it should be able to handle that. So that's an improvement still happening. And then the last thing is one that we put off from the deferred maintenance bond, which is improvement of the 2 boilers at the middle school that were on a deferred maintenance list. So we're gonna get those out of the deferred maintenance money, get those improved this spring as well. So we'll be, I mean, it doesn't get everything done that we wanted to get done, obviously. We're gonna have a beautiful school and get those infrastructures supported. So we should be in a good place moving forward. Greenhouse is broken ground. If you saw the little area out there on the landing on the bus side, so they're getting ready to pour the footings for the greenhouse. So that's exciting. So yeah, so we're finishing off all that stuff and things are going well.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
Park and Rec update, I still believe they're moving in spring break, and then we'll do some walkthroughs with their facility to see what that looks like. And get a day where our staff can go over there and kind of look at it and think about how we can use that space. So we're still in that process. We've got report from the city, the idea of altering the city's definition of community center to allow treehouse therapies to provide mental health services for 0 to 18-year-olds. I think was well received and is moving along this way, so that will be a nice addition once that finishes its process, which it sounds like could be May or June. So that'll be a part of that partnership over at the community center with Park and Rec. So that'll be exciting and much needed. I know I've used that number before, but in Central Oregon, not Sisters, but the entirety of Central Oregon, they have a 400 to 500 kid waiting list for mental health support. And so getting one more facility that they're able to serve kids out of will help. And it'll be, so our kids won't have to go to Redmond or Bend to get that support. So we'll have it locally. So we're excited about that potential moving forward. And then finally, really the discussion, if we're moving to our consolidated campus as a district office, that would leave this property vacant. And you heard some folks discussing about potential ideas for the use. I think my concern with those is this is a pretty considerable asset for the district to look at capital improvements and how we're doing things. And so I think that's a conversation that I think continuing, I would ask to have it put on the board business discussion to get some direction to the board, but I would recommend that I engage with some realtors to start looking at proposals for what this could look like to present back to the board, and keep that process moving forward. All options available, but looking at that a little more seriously. So, let's see, last thing, Joe and I went to the National Association of Independent Schools Conference. Kind of the idea for us was, there's a lot of write-ups of how creative programming attracts kids, and so I thought, let's go see what this creative programming is, right? So, there's things as a public school that we have to do that we are not able to do, like they have some rubrics, some of them had 9-point rubrics that weren't following quote unquote state standards, just things that they'd made up for buy-in for their student population. That was interesting. We do some creative programming already. I didn't see a lot of schools that could match what we're doing with ECOS, IEE, the Luthier program, Flight Science, right? I mean, we do some really cool stuff programmatically. I'd say there's some things that we learned that I think we can keep doing, and looking at when we were at the big picture school, looking at some interest-based tracks for kids that could give more options. Place-based learning, like expanding the partnerships that Amy's trying to get us a database of some partnerships to tap into. So there's some things where I think we can keep looking at, not a, oh, we need to change because we're not doing things well, but oh, we need to change because if we can engage 1 or 2% more of our students in a better way, that's worth the dialogue. So we're continuing down that. I think a win was we have to start personal finance, and one of the sessions I sat in, the guy gave us an open source for 2 different financial literacy classes that he taught that would meet the requirements so we don't have to have a teacher develop a curriculum. We have it. So there was a win there, and just some really good presenters. So it was good to think about how we're doing things. Joe sat in on one of the conferences, or one of his presenters, and it was a group from the National Association of Independent Schools, and when they had surveyed their families and were looking at the concerns and how to improve their system, 25% of the families said one of the things they were considering was going back to public school, right? So, it's again, it's really about what we can offer and how we meet the needs of the biggest group and provide interesting programming. So we're going to continue to look at that as a district. We're in a really good point in some data analysis with our, updating our mission vision. So I think that's gonna provide some good dialogue. You know, I think for us, once we get that adopted in this next 5-year plan, we're not getting rid of belong, prepare, and inspire, but prepare may have more of a focus on a 5-year math goal than the previous model did, right? There's some things that we're looking at that I think we're learning and looking at new ways of doing things as we keep moving forward. So excited about where we are and what the next couple of years are gonna look like, minus the budget.
Kurt, I've noticed in the information that comes from the Oregon Association of School Boards, they are starting something about tell us your story. And I was thinking, we should be telling them some of our stories. And so I'd like to come in and talk to you and see what we might
Yeah,
create, what we might tell them about. Because
Yeah.
we do some really innovative, wonderful things.
Yeah.
And I think we should spread the word, let people know that we're doing those things.
yes,
So I'd like to have that conversation with you.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. We do not, in public ed, do enough self-promotion. That's always been the truth, right? We're oftentimes too busy trying to help kids than to kind of feel like we're bragging about what we're doing for kids. And so I think that is a place that we can always look to get better. Amy's doing a good job of promoting things in our newsletter. So absolutely focusing on, you know, some of our signature programs and talking about what we're doing would be, really, really nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think schools have to follow the like checklist of things?
Yeah, when I was engaged with one guy, funny story, his kid is gonna be at the same school my daughter's gonna be at next year, so we were having after the session conversation. And when I said to him, I think I made a comment about mandatory state seat time, and he looked at me like, what are you talking about? Right, so independent schools, they're just that, they're independent schools.
But
They're-
are they accredited through the state? or
Maybe,
how
maybe
does it-
not, doesn't matter to them because they're usually a fee for service, so one of the schools, their tuition was 50,000 a year per kid. So it just varies with what the service they're providing and it's really like a business model, so some of them sell inquiry-based instruction, or they sell a model that they think will have people spend the money to have their kids go there for that service. So that was another interesting part of it, that it was really about a business plan, and their budgets were a little more volatile, because if something happened and they lost a bunch of kids, that was really an impact.
Right, but they don't have the same, like, X number of hours of math or X number of hours of outdoor education.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
And then graduating from, it's a high school diploma still, right, though?
Yeah, a lot of them were K-8 academies, that was more like prep schools to other, I mean, so
okay.
they were separated, there was
Oh,
very
okay.
few K-12 systems.
Okay,
But there was there was a lot of 6-12 systems and a lot of K-8 systems, at least at this, and there were a few that were K-12, but not as many. And they're typically, like we talk about standards, they call them competencies. So, just kind of a different model in how they are structured. Yeah.
okay.
But it was still a very interesting, conversation.
So, I wasn't at the work session, and I know you guys discussed this property and the assets, and I'm just curious, because you're mentioning talking to an agent, and is that as an exploratory, or what is that, how does that work?
Well,
Because, I mean, we obviously need to know what this
yeah, so.
is as an asset on
So-
multiple levels.
So the rudimentary first brush that I shared with the board is when questions were asked in that work session, one of the things was the value. And if I remember correctly, it was somewhere between 2.5 and 3.1 is what the estimation was, depending on what the market would take. And so really looking at, for us to do I believe because the fee for service, if you're looking at 4%, would be close to the threshold of us needing to get 3 bids for service. So that's really what I'm looking at, is going out to some folks to put together a proposal on how they would represent the district if this were to be something that they were able to list, bring that back to the board in a work session and keep the process moving forward.
I don't
But are
know,
we don't.
that
We're
doesn't
not
mean,
voting on that.
we're not voting on.
Action now, right? It's
Well,
action
we
that
would
take.
need to make a motion for him to engage,
Can we make a motion on that?
and what?
Yeah, you could.
To just to engage and get the bids, that doesn't mean we would,
No, I understand. I
Yeah.
just didn't think that we could add. Add something like that to the agenda.
Oh, I added it.
it's on
Oh,
here.
is that what you added?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I was not paying attention, so. Okay, in that case, sure, like, let's do it.
and then the real action would
Would
be.
you like to make the motion?
I would love to. I move that we ask her to.
Engage.
Like 3, you're saying 3 different options and come back with proposals.
Yep, and so we'll probably look at those, what that would look like is looking at them in a work session, having discussion and dialogue. At some point,
Yeah.
the board directed me to gauge a certain person or a certain agency to move forward if that, and that's when it does get real, then it would be the decision.
Right.
If that's where we're.
If we decide to.
Right now,
at
it's
that point.
conversation.
This,
Yeah.
exactly, this
Yeah.
is more exploratory.
Yep.
Would that include some sort of, clause in there if we had to rezone this building, or would they include that?
I think that would be a part of the process.
Okay.
When I engage them in looking at, folks that have helped clients do that in the process. So, that would be something that I would be looking for.
Right.
I've engaged the city a little bit, doesn't sound like an exorbitant process to go through, but it's nice to have someone on board who's actually done it as well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, there's a motion. Would anyone like to second that motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to go back there because I feel like we should at least know what it would take and what we're dealing with, and
Yeah.
it might become an issue and with time if we don't move forward.
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have more? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Nope, I actually,
Just wanted to
that,
jump in.
moving, that was my last thing, and we actually moved into one of the board business things that was added, so I could pick up with budget committee.
Yes, so tell me what I'm doing with budget committee, because I'm looking at this and
I'm glad you're in charge.
how's it going over there?
Do we have vacancies? I think we have.
We have no vacancies.
That's
so that was
fantastic.
One of the reasons that I put that on there is because I thought there were, and then I found out that we don't. So
Yeah.
we don't have any process to do. We have everyone, and I sent out a notification just a couple of days ago to let everybody know when the meetings are. So
That's
everyone-
great.
I thought we had one, but that's good.
That's 3 and 3 and over 3 years. So this is the year that.
Right, I've heard that it's been a problem in the past, right? Like
We've
so-
been understaffed in the budget committee by one typically every year until this past year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Great, well, that was easy. Thank you.
Yeah.
First reading policies. I'm sure everyone, we don't have a motion on that, right? We just
We do
read
not.
it. We just read
We
it.
have to read them.
Yep.
So.
So
Same thing, we'll come back next time with any questions you have, final drafts to be approved in the second reading. And again, all of these are based on new legislation changes. There was a list that was bigger than this, but after January, some of those changed and they took those off and said, nope, don't do that one. So this is as accurate as we have. I'm glad that we are actually, that our attorney was otherwise preoccupied in a different district, because we would have brought a list to you that we would have come back this time and said, remember those that we had you read? We'll take those ones off. So we're in a better place. Well, I don't know if we're in a better place.
Yeah.
We didn't waste time. Let me put it
Fair
that
enough.
way. And
Fair.
this is the group right now that we're considering, and we'll bring back next time for a second reading.
Perfect.
Just so
Quick
that you know,
question.
The red highlights are on everything. Those are the updates except for one with medications. Medications was completely raid and then redone, there's way too many updates to do.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's just like a.
I didn't.
The
So the-
medications one is completely redone, so
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there won't be red highlights because it's pretty much all new.
the whole thing
Yeah.
is new.
Yeah.
basically.
Eric?
Yeah, the question I had was, I just want to make sure that I'm reading this right. I saw that there were two that seemed similarly titled, suspected sexual conduct with students and reporting requirements. And then I think, I just want to make sure that we don't have a duplicate on here and that we're missing something.
There-
Yeah, I see it on there twice and they have different edits.
They're actually the same, it's just that they're under two different categories. And so it's just the name that gets changed, or the 8Rs, they're very, very slight.
I see.
They're extremely slight, they're basically the same, the same policies, but they're in two different categories, so we have to do them both.
Okay, it's interesting because the languages, the changes are different between the two, even though they're very similar. So
So say that,
I
which
mean,
one?
so on page, sorry, I gotta move things around. Page, what,
Yeah.
I have a page number, page 35. And although my pages may be different than yours,
Yeah, because they shouldn't have.
But it should.
and 23.
Yeah.
So is yeah, both of them for suspected sexual conduct with students and reporting requirements, where was the title on the two that I was curious about.
Yeah, I might have missed that one barring there.
At the top.
At the top.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wise, I think everything else, I might have missed that one, so combine that one. Good catch.
okay. Yeah, thanks.
Perfect. Makes sense. So if there's no other questions on the reading, consent agenda, any comments on the board minutes?
We approved the consent agenda.
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Announcement. So next regular board meeting is April 2nd, followed with an executive session. And then official budget meeting is April 16th.
Yeah, and I think that says 5 on there instead of, it should be 4, right?
Is there a meeting?
For the budget meeting?
The board meeting, oh, sorry, no, that was last one.
Yes, and those
Yeah.
meetings start at 5. I'm making sure
Is there a meeting with the city?
oh,
Oh, yeah, I didn't put that one on there.
Yeah,
I
what-
should've put-
what time is that? I have that.
Isn't that the sixth?
I think it's the 16th
I
also,
think that is the sixth.
so we might have
My
to,
sense is it's the ninth.
No, it's the ninth,
The ninth?
April
The
9th,
ninth.
and it is at 5 o'clock.
oh, I don't have that one.
Yeah, is that here or at the city?
It's at the city.
I believe it's at the city.
Great. If that's everything, this meeting is adjourned. Oh, huh?
We need to vote on the consent agenda.
Oh, we did.
We did?
We all said aye. On the, yep.
Okay. Wake up, old guy.
You made the motion. He seconded.
I
and we all
did.
voted.
I
Okay,
didn't
the meeting
remember the vote.
is
It
adjourned
was
at,
pretty exciting.
at 6, at, what time is it? It's at 5:58.